Why should CEOs make millions while some workers can't even afford rent?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question.
CEOs, blue-collar workers. Both are essential to society, yet CEOs earn 200 times more. Is this pay gap fair or the result of a broken system? We paired them face-to-face to find out.
What were some of the biggest obstacles to get you to where you are today?
Founding a tech company is incredibly stressful. Just a whole bunch of risk taking. I'm married, got 5 children, going away from what I was doing and making significantly less money is probably the biggest obstacle to getting where I am today.
I like to joke that I'm first generation blue collar, and I chose something very different than a lot of my family. They were like, "Are you sure about that? Is that really the move you want to make?" And I went into it, and now that I'm established, they definitely are much more supportive, and I think it's great.
Being an entrepreneur, probably the only one in your family, people not really understanding, what it takes, the sacrifices you have to make. You start with an idea. You didn't necessarily say, I'm about to, create this. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you don't have mentors most of the time. So you just kind of have to figure it out.
I can't tell you how many Christmases I've been laying under an engine at the airport when my poor little kids are waiting for dad to get home, so that's very difficult too.
A lot of sacrifices.
A lot of sacrifices.
The stresses of running a business are tough sometimes. There was one year that we didn't get paid on a really big job, and I made sure all my employees got paid, and at the end of the day, I went on food stamps that year. I want to provide the best for my family. I truly care for my employees, and I want to make sure that they can provide for their families. It's a big weight to carry.
I'm from Chile. We have to escape pretty much from our country.
How long ago was that?
A year ago.
Wow.
I was open to do anything because of my wife, my kids. And then I had this opportunity to work in this company. And it's not that easy as most of the people would think. It's hard, but some way I feel blessed.
CEOs of S&P 500 companies now make an average of $16.3 million, about 200 times more than their median employees. Why should CEOs make millions while some workers can't even afford rent?
That's a pretty interesting question, I would say. So there is a big gap, but at the same time, there's normally one CEO at a company. That particular person is the one who has the responsibility to grow the company. Because if they can't, the likelihood of them going to another place to get another position is slim. Because if they can't do their job, there will be no jobs for anybody else.
I fully support every CEO being paid what the board thinks that they should be paid, similar to the whole Elon Musk windfall bonus situation in Delaware, where he was due billions of dollars and then a judge shut it down saying that he shouldn't earn that much. The shareholder said he should. The board said he should because he drove way more than that in value to the company.
I've worked for 5 CEOs. I gotta be a little careful about what I say about the current one, but he literally makes $100,000 per day. That's craziness. There's a difference between an entrepreneur that has built something from scratch. They deserve every single thing they can get. A CEO that was hired by a board and they're all taking part in the profits of the company and all that. I don't know. I don't know that it's, $100,000 a day is necessary.
$16.3 million is excessive for at least most of those CEOs, if not all of them. If I had to guess, I'd say there's plenty of employees underneath any of those CEOs who actually deal with even more stress than they do on the job, who maybe put more on the line to just get to the position they're at than even a CEO. A company can run for some time without a CEO, and you can't say the same about their workforce, obviously depending on the industry and what kind of work they do.
I don't agree. If you look at somebody like Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix, let's just say he makes the average $16 million. Has he provided more than $16 million worth of value? I would say yes. I would say he would be very, very hard to replace. Could he be replaced? Absolutely. If he's a crappy CEO, then he shouldn't be paid that, 100%.
My argument is that a CEO might put out significantly more than what they earn, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's been earned. That's my argument.
What do you say to workers who think you sit in an office all day while they do all the work?
I've gotten that before, actually. And usually I say, well, somebody's got to make sure you have work, A, and B, somebody's got to make sure your paychecks are there on time, and somebody's got to make sure that the jobs are profitable. And without my employees, I wouldn't have a business. You know, without me doing what I do, they wouldn't have a job.
Sometimes if you don't see a person doing manual labor, you would consider that person not doing as much. When in fact, you know, to scale a company or to innovate, to create, it takes a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of thoughts.
I work incredibly hard, typically 10, 12, 14 hours a day, sometimes through the weekend, in order to make sure that the company succeeds. I have a board of directors, and it's their job to fire me if I am not performing according to the expectations of the shareholders. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of the frontline workers don't see. Fundraising, recruiting is probably a fourth of my job. Strategy and alignment. So many things that, you know, that you might not see up on the scoreboard for sales or marketing, but are incredibly important to the running of the business as well.
I don't take it to heart because I feel like, you know, we're human,
Yeah.
right? And no one ever understands what a person go through unless they're in it.
Do you think blue collar workers work harder than CEOs?
There are some extremely hardworking CEOs, and I absolutely respect that, but for every one CEO, there's probably at least 100 employees who are, without a doubt, harder workers. Blue collar workers in general work harder than CEOs.
If you were talking physically, yeah, maybe, you know, it depends. You never see my CEO out laying under an engine with hydraulics dripping in his eyeballs and busted knuckles and, you know, all that. But you know, when he's at home with his family, he's thinking about the airline. And I don't do that. When I come home, I do what I want to do, and I don't think about that place at all.
Oh wow, I get all the hard reads. You see this? Okay. After receiving a $96 million pay package, including a $5 million sign-on bonus, Starbucks' new CEO laid off over 1,000 employees just a month later. Should companies prioritize profit over keeping people employed?
If you don't have the profit, no one will be employed. And the bigger the business is, the smallest thing can actually be huge. It may be, you know, this coffee, you know, we have to add an extra 50 cents. The extra 50 cents can go a long way in a company that large.
You know, if this guy's making 96 million, was that 96 million? And then lays off 1,000 employees, I mean, I would say that's super questionable.
Is there going to be a negative impact to laying off that many people? Probably. I would say morally, it doesn't sit super well with me making that kind of move, but I am going to reserve judgment on what happened because I haven't seen under the covers of how the company was run, and there's a reason why they chose to pay him that much money, because they probably have a big problem that needed fixing, and it's a hard problem. Taking a lot of flack from the media for laying people off, making a whole bunch of structural changes, probably getting death threats.
I think that's an extensive pay package, frankly. I don't know the details of his past experience and what his accomplishments are and all that, but I will say just for the morale of Starbucks employees across the nation and the world alone, that's devastating to that. Starbucks locations on strike, trying to unionize, and
Just without knowing anything related with this, I might judge this with people who look like just numbers. We live in a world where there's too many bosses instead of leaders.
I think when it comes to the role of a CEO, I don't think fair is ever the word. There's a lot of decisions that's made that's definitely not fair. To save a company of this magnitude, this is the route we're gonna unfortunately have to take, because the fact of the matter is, things change. Sometimes not making those hard decisions, and I've done that. I've held on to people too long, and it cost me a lot.
Sure.
Actually, I had to close a business because of it, and I should have laid people off long time ago. If you don't have that background on that understanding, people can't get past the 96 million.
Yeah.
Like anything else you're saying is blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
It's a lot.
All right, what are the values that drive your work and life?
For me, it's definitely my family, I mean, I do everything for them. If it wouldn't be for them, I wouldn't be doing this. I would be doing something different.
You know, values, family, God, and personal growth. For me, through, you know, taking risks to grow.
Connection. If you're in a role for a long time, you've got younger people coming in and to basically replace you. It's really neat to have made it to the point where you can influence somebody.
I would dare say the impact of what we do. You know, when I have customers, you know, who say that this product changed their life, you know, is huge. From a personal perspective, I was the first in my family to get a degree, first in my family to grow a multi-million-dollar company, and it just shows you that if you're dedicated, you can do it.
I've always admired hard work, and that's a value instilled in me as a kid. Just don't half-ass anything. Give whatever you do your all.
One of the reasons why I'm an entrepreneur is I was just sick of making other people rich and working harder than them.
Yep.
I value being a good person and enriching the lives of others. Being an inspiration, providing a better place in the world, and doing good in the world, I think is incredibly important. I don't believe in stepping on people in order to succeed. All right, last card here. Has anything in this conversation changed how you see the pay gap or how we value different types of work?
I would say that I still stand by the fact that probably no CEO should make 200 times that of their median paid employee.
For one, the conversation's been incredibly interesting. I'm very happy to have been a part and meet you.
There's different levels of risk in everything that we do. And while we can call, you know, different people blue-collar workers and things of that nature, there's still people who have huge responsibilities.
Just from this brief conversation, it's clear that you hold a good respect for your employees, and I hope that can continue. I hope that you can continue to hire more and more people as time goes on, and that you have success there.
I've for so long been purely focused on impact that somebody makes in the world, but seeing how you aren't trying to make necessarily more than somebody next to you, like you believe that they put in work too, and you give them credit for the effort and the time that they put into developing their skill set is incredibly admirable, and something that I think a lot of people could use.
All right, guys, that's it for that. So.
Awesome. Thank you. That was fantastic.
I enjoyed it.